Ico and Shadow of the Colossus were two of the most artistically imagined games to hit the PS2. The Ico Collection, released 2011, got gamers excited to relive the memorable moments of these two classic, critically acclaimed titles.
Although entirely different, both games share a thematic resemblance: vast landscapes, medieval architecture, and simple but endearing plots. Further to being in full HD, the collection also comes with a 3D TV support and bonus disc content, including interviews and themes for the PS3. Needless to say, the developers and conversion specialists have gone above and beyond to make something very special, even more so, packing everything onto a single disc. Originally released in 2001, Ico was a game like no other. With a subtle, pleasant yet melancholy soundtrack and soft, dreamlike artwork, it stands out alone as its most material level. The story begins with a small group of men imprisoning Ico inside a towering water fortress for fear that his newly sprouted horns could prove dangerous to their village. After locking him in a boy-sized sarcophagus, he manages to escape, only to find himself dragged into a dark portal by a mysterious, shadow-like demon creature. He soon discovers a girl by the name of Yorda, of which he feels compelled to save, and this is where the heart of the game truly lies. After meeting with what we can only presume is a demon witch from hell, the plot begins to develop into a slowly unravelling mystery, whereas you begin to uncover the unpleasant and unforgiving truth behind the fortress's secrets. Despite looking like a game targeted at children, Ico is absolutely ruthless. Checkpoints are unforgiving, passing commands and character actions are unprompted, and puzzles are tricky enough to require players to think outside the box, evolving the mindset of the player into utilising new tricks with old tools. Solving harder and more dangerous puzzles require a moderate deal of experimentation, ultimately leading to accidental death and at the very easiest of mistake. The game can sometimes lead you down paths that coax you into either a much unwarranted demise or at the very best waste your time. These red herrings actually make the game feel somewhat organic, as it represents what it would feel like to truly be inside an overwhelmingly grand fortress. As you navigate the fortress, you pick up a sense of what Ico can do, which is relatively basic compared to most adventure games of the time. Besides the standard jumping and punching, Ico has a command to prompt Yorda into either following him or holding his hand, the latter being the most fast and least irritating option, as it avoids the risk of you waiting forever and a day for her to reach you. For the most part, you cannot leave Yorda's side and are entirely dependent on her presence. Most NPC companions tend to serve a purpose, but Yorda is not such an NPC. The most obvious use of her ability is that you cannot save your game unless she sits beside you on the spirit bench, or whatever you'd want to call it. This is a nice sentiment as it encapsulates the very heart of what this game is about. Another reason you won't want to leave Yorda is that at most points in the game she is susceptible to being kidnapped by a roster of faceless portal dwellers. These foes aim to add some action to the game, as it is your duty to ensure they meet a swift and unforgiving end. If Yorda is captured and pulled entirely through a portal, a shockwave covers the land and Ico turns to stone, causing the game to end. In earnest, this does not happen often, as enemies are relatively stupid and do not take a great deal of effort to remove, as you mash Ico's single 3-hit combo to defeat foes throughout the entire game. Stray too far from Yorda, however, and demons will appear at her location, often making it tricky for you to get back in time to save her. There are parts of the game designed for exactly this kind of tension, and it works very well to instill a sense of dread and urgency in an otherwise dormant, picturesque world. The gem in Ico's crown is firmly positioned in its level design. The entire game is one large dungeon, entwining itself expertly from start to finish. An area you see early on might just be the area you return to 3/4 of the game later, only to leave the area to return to another. The scale of the environment is breathtaking and complex, evoking savvy and intelligence to grant a hope of conquering. Despite being linear, the game is designed to never feel so, as the only times you'll be left scratching your head is when you really should be. For all its merit, Ico is scathed with some pretty fundamental flaws. The character is clunky and often does not do what you intend. Despite a varied terrain, you'll find yourself doing arduous activities such as shimmying across various ledges and climbing ladders for all of eternity, and this is made worse when you are forced to wait atop of a ladder for Yorda, who is infinitely slower than Ico. The fixed camera, which is mostly great at providing clues in the scenery, can sometimes do the opposite, causing you to make a bad call that leaves you unamused at a save point you visited half an hour ago. Yorda's AI is the least of annoyances, but deserves a mention all the same. Quirks aside, Ico is a great game for people of all ages. The game is at worst a wonderful metaphor and at best an emotional journey, with everything you'd want in between. Moving on 5 years, and Team Ico have developed and released Shadow of the Colossus. Despite sharing the beautiful style in artwork and metaphorical depth, these two games couldn't be more different. Colossus begins with a boy riding horseback to a forbidden land. He attempts to consult a spirit in reawakening his dead partner, for which the spirit accepts. The conditions of acceptance lie in the demise of 16 Colossi, who must be slain to grant his desire. The boy is firmly warned that nothing comes free and that a heavy burden may be paid for this errand. That's about as deep as the story goes for 95% of this game, as you then venture out to complete your mission, kill 16 monsters and win back the soul of your maiden. You might think a game focused on killing 16 creatures would prove somewhat lackluster, and if so, you couldn't be more mistaken. Colossus requires skill as well as savvy to solve puzzles of an entirely different nature. The game is set in one vast environmental plane of multiple terrains. Using an ancient sword, you use sunlight to navigate terrains to the Colossus. Vast as it is, the addition of a trusty steed makes the travelling experience fun. The horse aggro controls unpredictably at times, as a real horse would, and has an intelligent AI to make it feel like an accomplice. The act of riding alone feels realistic. Compared with a beautiful and varied environment, it feels nice to journey around as an act of pleasure in itself. Unlike aggro, the main character controls perfectly, responding to your every command with precision and speed. Tutorials are offered in the opening scenes, as you will need at very least some practice before taking on one of the behemoths. You have a simple set of skills at your dispense, and the mechanics make for tactical gameplay. For example, you have a combination grip and power meter, serving as the root of your ability to kill. Your bow and infinite arrows are used for tactical purposes, as the sword causes core damage to the creatures. So what is it exactly that makes this game? The moment you see a Colossi, you will know the answer to this question, as your question will only be answered with another. How in hell am I going to kill that thing? Unlike other games, Colossus levels are not the platforms. The monsters are the levels, and each one must be killed by stabbing pressure points located on several parts of their bodies. The Colossi can't be hit, let alone bested by one sloppy 3-hit combo to the chin. Players must use their brains and their skills to tackle the Colossi, as each individual creature cannot be taken down in the same way. To make the game a challenge, you must scale the monsters to locate each pressure point, using your slowly depleting grip as a measure of endurance. Monsters will attempt to shake you off at every chance they get. At such times, the character is helpless for the fact he may not have enough grip to stay on board. Lose grip and it's a long plummet down to the beginning of the towering abomination, costing you time and health. Players can choose to take risks atop the beast by building power for deadlier strikes. Wait too long and you may just get shaken off the beast in aforementioned fashion. After killing the first two, a whole quarter of the total Colossi count, it feels as though the game may end too quickly. Truth be told, these creatures are warm-ups. As the third monster ups, they add by a whopping degree in all respects, and things only get better. By the time you reach the last boss, you've encountered some truly unimaginable, challenging experiences, pushing the absolute limits of what your character can do. What should be praised of Colossus are its raw, profound experiences. Every moment feels wonderful and exciting as towering beasts crash mud and water in detailed explosions and crashes. The wind roars at you on horseback or atop giants. Smoke lingers in underground temples. The depth of field can be nauseating and dreadful. About the only thing to dislike about this game is the subtitle font and squished, badly navigatable menu system. Thankfully, you see little of both. Shadow of the Colossus will go down in history as one of the great games of its time. It's not surprising then that since its release, gamers have been itching to get hold of Team Ico's upcoming game, The Last Guardian. Saved from development hell, the game was recently shown off at E3 2015, inspiring hope that the game will soon be released. After 10 years of waiting, we'd love to see this game released, journeying ancient and distant lands once more with a team we know understands excellence.
I've been Amy, see you next week as we tackle the already widely praised Metal Gear Solid 5.